The Graveyard Shift. A dark and twisted true story. Not in a million years did I ever think I'd be working the late night shift at McDonald's. One stormy night, Mike and I were working at 3 a.m. I worked the drive-thru. He prepared the food back in the kitchen. Most of the time, there were barely any customers that came through, and the ones that did were mostly cab drivers or police officers. Anyways, I was cleaning the counter when the alert came in, letting me know that there was someone at the speaker ready to order. "Welcome to McDonald's. What can I get for you tonight?" I asked. All that came through my headset was heavy breathing. I didn't think anything of it because sometimes we did get weird people that came through. Mostly were teenagers pulling pranks. That kind of stuff was expected to happen on the graveyard shift. I cleared my throat and repeated my question. "Welcome to McDonald's. What can I get for you tonight?" I asked. Again, nothing but heavy breathing. I went back in the kitchen and told Mike that it was just another silly prankster trying to scare us. He just giggled, shook his head, and continued making sandwiches. When I got back up front, it was dead silent. I just figured whoever it was had gotten tired of fucking around with us and left. I felt relieved. I just went back to my cleaning. Then the bell rang again. "Welcome to McDonald's. What can I get for you tonight?" I asked. But once again, no voice, just heavy breathing. But this time, it was much faster and heavier, as if the person was having some sort of asthma attack. Then I started to freak out because what if this was some elderly person having an actual asthma attack and needed medical attention? I leaned out of my window to see if I could see anything, but all I could see was an old, scary-looking van with dark tinted windows and blinding headlights. I yelled to Mike and asked him if he could go out and check to make sure the customer was okay. At first he said, hell no. It was storming outside, but since he was about to take a cigarette break anyway, he decided that he would investigate the situation as he grabbed his jacket and headed out. Then all of a sudden, I heard a loud scream coming from outside as if someone was in pain, and it sounded like Mike. When I ran out to see what the issue was, all I could see was the car speeding off into the distance, and there was no sign of Mike anywhere, except for his hat that lay there on the ground. That was the last time I saw him, and no one has seen him since. Needless to say, I put in my week's notice to leave at the end of that same week. The Graveyard Shift. A dark and twisted true story. It was 2 a.m. on a Sunday night, and I was working the late night shift. I hated working that time of night for 2 good reasons. One, it was boring as hell because we barely got any customers that came in at that time. 2, the ones we did have come in were very strange people, and my workplace being 2 blocks away from the mental hospital made matters worse, much worse. Anyways, one night as I was bent down stocking the shelves, I heard someone walk in. But when I rose to my feet to greet them, there was no one there. I had sworn I heard footsteps as well, but I guess I was so bored out of my mind, I must have conjured up sounds in my imagination. Then the phone rang, which was not unusual because that was the time my girlfriend called to talk to me, to keep me company. But after I picked the phone up and said hello, it was not her voice on the other end. It was a man's voice. "I'm watching you," he said. "Excuse me," I replied. "I am watching you," he repeated, but this time in a more stern voice. I didn't even bother replying to him. I just hung the phone up and went about my business, thinking it was just some sort of prank. Then it rang again. "Hello," I said. "Don't fucking hang up the phone on me again," he said angrily. But I did. Then the phone rang again. "Listen here, asshole," I yelled. "Oh my God, are you okay?" said my girlfriend on the other end. It felt as if 1,000,000,000 bricks was lifted off of my chest. After our call, I decided to take a bathroom break. After I was done, I returned to the front of the store, only to find a man sitting on top of the counter. He was dressed in an all-white hospital gown and had an ice pick in his hand. The creepy, chilling smile on his face was indication that this man was not sane. "I told you not to fucking hang up the phone on me, didn't I?" he yelled as he hopped down from the counter and started walking toward me quickly. I ran into the bathroom and locked the door behind me. I didn't have my cell phone with me, or I would have called the cops. Then all of a sudden, the door was kicked in, but when the person stepped forward, it was the cops instead. I felt relieved. They said that the man had escaped from the mental hospital and had stolen someone's cell phone, and they had been looking for him for 2 days. They said as they drove past the store, they noticed a strange man walking around suspiciously. When they went after him, he had fled out of the back door. Luckily, they caught up with him before he could get away. Needless to say, I never worked the late night shift ever again. A dark and twisted true story. "3:26 in the morning, and I was working late at the local diner. All night I felt a bit creeped out for the simple fact there was a man who had been sitting at one of the tables for the past 7 hours, and I could feel his eyes watching me. When I glanced to look at him, he would look away. And the strange thing was, out of those 7 hours, he only had ordered 1 cup of water, and that was it. Thank God my manager told me that I could go home early since the night was so slow. She announced to the creepy man and the 3 others who were in there that we were closing up for the night. So he left his $1 tip on the table and headed out into the darkness of the night. I wiped down the counters, clocked out, told my manager I was heading off and would see her the next day. Then I started walking to my car. When I approached it, I had noticed my tires had been slashed. I had just broke up with my crazy ex-girlfriend, so I figured she was the one who had done it. I said screw it, so I called an Uber to come pick me up. A few short minutes had passed, and my Uber had arrived. "Thank you so much for picking me up." "No problem," he replied, his voice deep and gritty. I could not see his face, only his eyes in the rearview mirror, and his eyes looked somewhat familiar. I tried to make small talk with him, but the only thing he would talk about was his dead wife. "Are you getting ready for the holidays?" I said. "No, but my dead wife loved the holidays." I found it creepy that this man kept referring to his deceased wife as dead wife instead of just wife. "Do you have a lot of dead people in your family?" he asked, which of course creeped me out even more. Sure, doesn't everyone? But all he said was, "I wonder how it really feels to be dead. Have you ever wondered that? You know, worms and maggots eating your flesh while your dead body is rotting in the ground." What the actual fuck? I didn't even respond to this man. I just anxiously awaited to get home. Then I noticed a knife laying on the floor, and it had tiny pieces of rubber on it, as in rubber from my tires. He must have slashed my tires, then fronted as the Uber driver. And I know that was the case because right at that moment, I got a text saying, "Your Uber driver is on her way." "Want to see a photo of my dead wife?" he said. And when he showed me the photo, it was a woman I had seen on the news a few days ago. She had been murdered by her mentally insane husband, a man that was still wanted, a man that was my Uber driver. He turned his head a bit as his face was revealed in the reflection in the windshield. It was the creepy man from the diner. Then the doors locked, and he slammed his foot on the gas, passing up my house. "Let me out of here," I yelled. "No," he yelled back. Then he ran a red light, and thank God he did, before I knew it, we were being pulled over by the cops. As soon as they recognized him, they drew their weapons and arrested him. As long as I live, I will never, ever forget those 31 terrifying minutes. A dark and twisted true story. My parents and I had just moved to a small town. I barely knew anyone since I was homeschooled, and it felt like isolation because there was only one other house in the area. I was new to the Instagram platform. I had only posted 12 photos at the time. I have to admit, I was a little jealous seeing so many other people my age getting loads of comments and followers, and the only person that was following me was my mother, which of course was so embarrassing. But oh well, at least I had a follower. Anyways, one night, I had received a notification that I had a new follower named Wacky Girl Cutie Pie, which made me extremely happy because finally I had a follower. When I went to see the new follower that I had, it was one of the most beautiful girls I had ever laid eyes upon. Then I got a notification that she had posted a comment on one of my photos, and her comment made me blush because it said, "Hottest boy alive." I commented back to her and said, "Thank you," and hearted her comment. 1 hour had passed, and I got a new notification. It was from her. This time she said, "Will you be my boyfriend?" I thought it was some sort of role-playing game. So I said, "Sure, I'll be your boyfriend." A few days had went by, and I hadn't logged in because it was the weekend, and I was busy spending time with my family. So I decided to log in, and she had left me over 511 comments. "Where are you? Why are you fucking ignoring me, damn it? Is this how you treat your girlfriend? You better talk to me." Oh, hell to the no, I said to myself. Then I blocked her crazy ass immediately. This girl obviously had some serious head issues. A few hours had passed, and I logged back in. I was thrilled to find out I had 12 new followers. But when I checked the photos from each account, they were all her. "Why did you block me, you dick?" she said. So I blocked all 12 of her crazy accounts. All of a sudden, I looked up at my window, and there she was with her face pressed firmly against the glass. Oh shit. Then she tried to open it. "Let me in," she yelled. I yelled for my parents, but had forgotten they had went out for the evening, and I was home alone. Then she pulled out a knife and started cutting herself, then wiping the blood all over my window. I immediately ran to the bathroom, locked myself in, and called the cops. Come to find out, her and her parents had just moved in down the street to that one house that was on our block. Her parents said that she suffered from schizophrenia. Thank God she was sent away to get some help that she so badly needed. But then I wondered, what will happen when she gets out? A dark and twisted true story. It was the 13th of October on a Friday night, 11 p.m. sharp to be exact, and I had only one more delivery before my shift ended. I wanted so badly to refuse to deliver this order because not only was the guy a weirdo, but there was always a bad odor as soon as he would open the door. But I had no other choice due to my manager being a dick and all. So there I was, driving up to Mr. Creepy's house, and as usual, all of his lights were out. I walked up to the door, took a deep breath, then knocked. There was no answer, so I called him to see what the hell was the issue. But I was soon startled by the sound of a cell phone ringing right next to me. As I used the flashlight from my phone, I aimed it to the area where the ringing was coming from. There he was, sitting in his old rocking chair, just staring at me, his mouth halfway open, with drool trickling down his chin. "Oh, there you are, sir. Here is your pizza," I said, placing it on top of his lap. The man was still silent, still just sitting there staring at me. $19.20, I said. Then he finally opened his mouth to speak. "The money is on my dresser in my bedroom. Could you please get it for me? I'm having issues with my legs this evening." The man was creeping me out, so I did as he requested, just to hurry up, get the money so I could get the hell out of there. When I opened the door to his room, the horrid odor slapped me in the face. I quickly picked up his wallet from his dresser and was about to walk out of the door when I noticed there was something laying in the bed under the sheets in the shape of a body. "Oh, fuckity fuck," I said to myself. Curiosity got the best of me. I walked over to the bed slowly, my legs trembling beneath me uncontrollably. I finally got up the nerve to pull the sheets down, and as soon as I did, holy crab apples! I screamed like a little bitch as my heart thumped in my chest like a drum. I grabbed the money for the pizza out of his wallet and immediately ran the fuck out of there, hopped in my car, and never looked back. When I finally got back to the restaurant, I told my manager all about it as he quickly called the police. The cops said the body was the old man's wife, and she had been dead for many years. Needless to say, I never worked as a pizza delivery guy ever again. A dark and twisted true story. I was in a store one day when I met this girl named Mariah Scary. Not only was she very pretty, she was just one of those laid-back kind of girls that even after 5 minutes of knowing her, it felt as if you've known her for all eternity. Anyways, we ended up exchanging Snapchats and went our separate ways. A week or so had went by, and to be honest, I pretty much forgot all about her and even started dating a new girl named Darketta Twistina. One night, while her father was at work, she told me to come over so we could watch some scary movies in her room. And that is when it happened. I saw eyes watching us through the curtains. Did you see that? I asked, my eyes darting toward the window. No, she replied. Someone's watching us through the window, I said. Pay attention to the movie, she said firmly. Maybe she was right, I said to myself. Maybe I was just being paranoid from watching too many episodes of My Girlfriend Wants to Kill Me from that damn dark and twisted guy. An hour had went by, and there it was again, those eyes just staring at us. At this point in time, I was completely freaked out and told her that we should call the cops. She told me it was probably her little brother, whom she called the little booger, trying to scare us. But I reminded her that the little booger was up in his room, fast asleep. She decided to take a trip downstairs to the kitchen to get us some snacks. So I stayed up in her room, checking my social media. Then I got a message on Snapchat. So you forgot about me, huh? Is it because she is more interesting than me? Or is it because she is prettier than me? I hope she Lorena Bobbitt's your ass, you creep. What in the figgity frugal fuck was this girl even talking about? Look, you're not my girlfriend. What in the hell is wrong with you, you crazy lunatic? Leave me alone, you crazy biatch. Insulting me now, huh? Did you happen to forget about that new feature on Snapchat? I know where you live, and I'm coming for your balls. When I'm done with you, you'll have to explain to your future wife why you can't have children. That was enough for me, so I immediately blocked her loony ass and turned off my phone. 5 minutes later, and I heard the sound of glass breaking downstairs, followed by Darketta's loud scream. Then immediately after, her bedroom door flung open, and thank God it was Darketta. She slammed the door behind her, locked it, then pushed her dresser up against it. "What is it, Darketta?" I yelled. "We need to call the cops. There's some crazy girl with an axe on her way up here right now. We need to hide. Come on. We both ran into her closet. Then we heard footsteps walking quickly up the stairs and toward the door. I took out my cell phone and tried to call the cops, but my battery was dead. I'm going to kill you both, she yelled. All of a sudden, we heard her chopping at the door with her axe. We knew right then and there that we were gonna die. 5 minutes had went by, and we heard car doors outside of her window. We were praying to God that it was the cops. Then her closet door opened quickly. "Are you two okay?" said Darketta's father, who happened to be a cop. He had came back home because he had dropped his badge on the hallway floor. Mariah must have seen his badge, got freaked out, and fled out of the back door. The worst part is, she's still out there somewhere and could return at any time. A dark and twisted true story. The clock read 3:38 a.m. when my head hit the pillow. I had drifted off to sleep immediately afterwards. A few minutes had passed, and I was awakened out of my slumber by a strange sound at my window. As my eyes zoomed in, there it was, a dark and twisted human-like figure peeping through the bushes with its eyes fixed upon me. Immediately, I tried to raise up out of my bed to shut the curtains, but I couldn't move. It was as if I was paralyzed. Within a blink of an eye, the figure had moved from the bushes to the foot of my bed. It was tall, dark, with creepy eyes, and its teeth were sharp and jagged, like the teeth of a prehistoric creature. I tried to scream for my roommate to help me, but nothing came out of my mouth but silence. I clenched my eyes shut, hoping and praying it was just a nightmare, and that it would be gone when I opened them. But when I opened my eyes, it was hovering over me, and even though it was not touching me, I could feel the pressure on top of me. Then, with another blink of my eyes, his face was only mere centimeters from my face. The stench of its breath was unbearable. Then, all of a sudden, in its hand, there was a long knife, and there was blood dripping from the tip. I tried to beg for my life, but once again, nothing came out but silence. Then, out of nowhere, my door opened quickly, and it was my roommate, Jason. Quickly, the demon, or whatever it was, vanished into thin air, and my body had returned back to normal. The next morning, I asked Jason what did he see when he opened the door. He said he did see the dark figure on top of me, but thought it was just a girl I had brought home from the club that night. I've had some ugly girls in my day, but this was no girl. It was far from it.